Hey, everybody, we're live, and thank you for joining us. I'm about 2 minutes earlier than I said on Twitter, but that's okay. We're actually now a little bit behind. I wanted to make sure that I went over things with my friend here. Dan, man, I'm so happy you're on. I'm happy to see you. I'm blessed to have you on here. Thank you so very much. And folks who normally watch this program know how we roll. This is your platform. But I promise you, everybody, Dan's got a lot to say. And Dan, tell my viewers who are not entirely aware of what you went through or your background, or maybe read something that was trying to put you in the guise of Clark Kent and say that you were in that movie that was produced by a guy that I interviewed named Ilya Salkind, the producer of it. A great guy, by the way. But set the record straight for everybody. Thanks. Who's Dan Rush?
Hi, Zennie.
Hey, go ahead.
I'm Dan Rush, and I'm a friend of Zennie's.
Yes, you are. Case closed.
and I'll just touch quickly. I'm an old retired union guy that retired the hard way at the assistance of the federal government, and a couple of angry union leaders that were jealous of my work.
Hold on a second, Dan. Someone said they couldn't get the interview open. Let me test that.
Okay.
Hold on.
We're jealous of my work.
Hold on a second, Dan. It opens for us. Get the interview open. Let me test that. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, Kim. It opens for us. Okay, Dan, keep going. It opens for us.
So, and I guess I'm most remembered in my 35 plus years in the labor movement as being the guy that pushed for cannabis regulation, legalization, organizing the workers into our labor movement, and creating a safe, dignified, training, certification-driven, community-conscious, worker-friendly career model. Not just creating jobs, but creating careers. And doing that with folks that were not historically employees. As a matter of fact, none of them were employees of any sort of employer entity. And just sort of bringing some sensibility to something that was going on at the time. And back in 2008, 2009, I got started on this. California was in the crapper financially. Schools were closing, fire departments were closing, public safety and health services were being decreased. Communities were hurting, and the state was broke, and everybody was broke. The mortgage thing was happening. It was a depression, although they sold it to us as a recession. So I had a vision and saw an opportunity to create some good union careers and put some money in the coffers of the state, stop some persecution, and very much be able to help patients who are suffering because the pharmaceutical industry would not address cures. They were only interested in treatments, and they didn't want medical marijuana at the time because they couldn't capitalize on it. So I set out to do that. It was a vision I had. I was a political operative in UFCW at the time in my local 5, and going over initiatives that were filed with the Secretary of State one Thanksgiving weekend. I found an initiative. Actually, it was aggravated because all these potheads had all these initiatives filed with the Secretary of State, and it was my job. I had to read them all, and then tell our board and our members what they were about. So long about the 4th or 5th one I read, I noticed the address was the same address of the origins of my grandmother's retail clerks, which is now UFCW, my grandmother's retail clerks union. And it was just down the street on Broadway. So, we're 4th generation Oakland family. My kids are 4th, born and raised in the same compound. So I run downtown and I look around, and so I'm a political guy. I mean, that's what I do. That's what I've always done it for a very long time. And I know a campaign that has potential when I see it. So I have this vision. I see this campaign. I see the address. Have this vision, which I still have today. People working, sitting at home Thanksgiving. Mom works at the dispensary. Dad works at the production facility, or however that works out. I don't want to trigger anybody or offend anybody. Pension checks are sitting on the table from, their cannabis industry jobs. Families having a good time. We're having turkey. And I thought, man, I would really like to see this vision come true. I saw the trucks rolling. I still see it. I see the production facilities, people, clocking out at clock out time and clocking in at work time. And so I know a winning campaign, and I figured, you know what, I got to go look at this. It's down the street. I get up early Sunday morning. You want to see what a campaign's potential is? Get up at 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday and go down to the office. If you find an empty building, either they have a lot of money or it's not going to go anywhere. So I get downtown to Oaksterdam, which was kind of new to me. And I peer in the window because there's all the campaign propaganda in the windows. And I look in and what do I see? 6 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning, I see a bunch of haggard, young, determined people sitting around laptops with empty pizza boxes, cruddy coffee cups, ashtrays in this case, either with cigarettes or joints in them. And I see a flurry of people on a Thanksgiving weekend on a Sunday. And I'm like, well, you know what? That's a good sign. I knocked on the door. They let me in. They were kind of, I'm an old bike rider, right? So I go down there on my motorcycle, and I probably didn't look too polished, which I rarely do anyway. This is my uniform. You remember Zennie? I don't think you've ever seen me without a Ben Davis and starched and iron, though, I got to say. They let me in. They enthusiastically talked to me about their campaign. And I thought, wow. So I left there thinking, how the hell am I going to sell this to the union, right? I want to organize this industry that will be created from this initiative. And so that began the trek. And we didn't lose that. We didn't win that initiative. That was Prop 19. We came in at 47.8% or something like that. I mean, it was just this much of a loss, which in ballot politics means that's a win. Yeah. You just have to, right? You just have to run again.
Right.
And so we're doing the mole on your nose initiative, right? And we still come in that close. Not only that, we got Eric Holder and Obama's DOJ firing missiles at us.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Duck. Eric Holder, right?
Yeah.
Eric Holder comes to town. He's the attorney general. I'm going to indict everybody that has anything to do with it. I'm going to indict the city councils. I'm going to indict the state legislators. I'm going to indict your staff for touching, right, a piece of legislation.
Yeah.
Well, they successfully scared the hell out of it. And, in politics, we have demographics. We go after soccer moms, Joe lunch buckets, grandma and grandpa, the older crowd. We go after the whole, and we have little tags for those. And they successfully scared the hell out of the soccer moms. They're like, because the percentage of childbearing age women that voted was small, and the percentage of the child raising age dads was huge. Right.
Absolutely.
And so we got good news from grandmas. We got good news from grandpas. We got good news from every community you could think of, LGBT, we called ourselves liberals back then, progressives back then. We even got, good news from a lot of Republican districts that were historically just stuffy old white men that vote the way they vote. And but they voted yes for cannabis. As a matter of fact, we were astonished the demographics that came in. So anyway, went to work around the country. Went to Denver, went to Washington State, went to Oregon, New York, Massachusetts, the whole Eastern Seaboard, took versions of that initiative and ran it as legislation. And so, by then, the union loved the campaign, and they kind of held their nose at me because, UFCW, God love them, my union, bunch of Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
And, with a lot of the folks in the union, God love them, their primary goal was to not rock the boat.
Right.
And you remember when we went after my my Democratic Party board seats,
Mm-hmm.
CDP, DNC, you were there. We started off together on those, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And, so I've never been known for not wanting to rock the boat.
Right.
And so
back down from a fight, but same thing, right?
I'm from Oakland, man. Right?
Perfect.
I'm an East Oakland kid.
Yep.
So, and God forbid me, I like to be, careful about what I say these days. In my case, so many colloquialisms, or however you put that, got so mischaracterized.
Mm-hmm.
And so much stuff that I said and did in my case got so mischaracterized by, devious people who are professionals at mischaracterizing things, fabricating things, creating groups of people that are, as a group, fabricating and mischaracterizing, and directing a group of people. And everybody knows about my case. As a matter of fact, today's my first day off parole.
Yeah. Delighted. Yeah, I'm honored to have you here. That's how does it feel? I mean, well, let me ask you a question, just based in part on what we discussed. But was there a time when you went back, if you look back and think, okay, this is when I knew things were going to go south? Do you remember when that might have been?
Yeah. The day I left the Prop 19 campaign office.
Wow. Gee, what happened?
Well, Zennie, what we did was had never been done before, and we did it in the face of,
Right.
And aggressively, to impact the pharmaceutical industry, to impact the justice industry, to impact the prison industry, to impact the dialogue that had survived and thrived over 100 years.
Yep.
100 years ago, they started, Reefer Madness.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember that.
That whole thing was targeted at hemp, right?
Mm-hmm.
Literally.
Yep.
So they came up with Reefer Madness because they couldn't demonize hemp. And hemp is one of the most fantastic textiles. It's one of the most fantastic agricultures. It's a plant that actually remineralizes soil. In my work, I discovered, why we had a dust bowl?
Nice.
Because they stopped growing hemp in the soils in between the crops.
Huh. I did not know that. Yeah.
And nobody ever wanted us to know that. They never wanted to admit it. They went after hemp. I mean, they demonized cannabis because it was the only way they could get rid of hemp. Timber, oil, the Rockefellers, I'm sure they're not going to be happy about that. The pharmaceutical industry, the cotton, textiles industries all got together and said, if we can get rid of hemp, we can all make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Petroleum in those days was not oil was not the primary fuel back in the Industrial Revolution, right?
Right. That's right.
It still shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
We can separate molecules on the moon. I'm sure we could make something to run our engines more efficient than digging up old dinosaurs and old trees. And there must have been a lot of dinosaurs.
There were.
Must have been a lot of old trees.
And
So
hey,
anyway,
by the way, you know, they're trying to remake them too and bring them back to life.
Right. Right. Well, we got CERN now, so we can shift realities at will. So anyway, I was up against all that. I knew it, and I knew that it would be the fight of my life, and I knew that it's my life's work, and it still is. And you know, today, my partners and I, we're building holding companies, and you know, at that time, I knew it would be a fight. I didn't think it would be the fight it was. I never imagined that a U.S. attorney would come up with tens of millions of dollars to come after me, and get federal agencies to dedicate lots and lots of people to circle around me, to have contact with me, to manipulate me, to read fabricated scripts to me, to put me in scenarios that were just, you know, I just never thought that they were. I didn't think I was that guy, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm just some kid from East Oakland that's out here trying to, you know, do something for working people. And then I never imagined that they would go after my lawyer to get to me. and to use the crimes my lawyer was committing, almost all of which I didn't know. And I gotta say, you know, when that guy told me that he had gotten some money for a building thing I'd been working on in my family's property for a long time.
Oh, by the way, some name of your lawyer, by the way, so those who not, you know.
Oh, let me spell his name for you. It's TERBEEK. His first name is Mark, MARC, and his middle name is Lawrence.
Mark Lawrence?
Mark Lawrence Trebeek.
Yes, I know the name. Yep.
Yeah. Sat and testified against me for hours and hours. So signed bombshell affidavits and declarations that said that I was all these horrible, despicable, sociopathic, rotten, mean, threatening, horrible guys. I haven't been able to talk about that in depth until today because I wasn't allowed to. You know, my parole, which they call supervised release now, which in my opinion makes parole look like kindergarten.
Wow.
There were so many things I couldn't say. There's so many things I couldn't do. There's still things in my case that I can't produce documents from, although I understand that I can talk about what I've seen. And trust me, my lawyers and I are going to go back and try and open that case up and get that gag order lifted so that the real story can get told. And
Tom, you remember you writing to me on, we were messaging each other on Facebook, and then openly you're saying, you know, I'd love to talk, but right now, you know, I can't say anything. This has gone for some time.
And sometimes I would get mad, lose my lunch and say things. But I never said anything I couldn't say. I never committed a crime. And I got to tell you, and I've never made any bones about this. Zennie, I'm from East Oakland. I'm going to do what I think is right. And so some of the stuff that I felt needed to be done in this never before even conceptualized idea of controlling, taxing, and regulating cannabis and creating an industry of dignity and prosperity. I never thought that I just never.
There's two ways I want to go. One of them is, well, let's go the way that we talked about, because the other way I wanted to go was basically to congratulate you on what you did, because it's a different world now, wouldn't you say?
Oh God, yeah. And I got to tell you, every time I walk into a dispensary, I have a spiritual experience. Because when I started, we had a couple of dispensaries, but the lives that we lived in those dispensaries were constant threat of federal raids, indictment, arrest, having to deal with less than principled people, not the people not the principled people in the industry that were there to serve the patients and help the process, but you get a lot of people when you have to deal in a black and a gray market, that an underground and a gray market that you wouldn't necessarily let in your living room.
Sure. Yeah, right.
So, nowadays I walk into a dispensary and everybody's like, "Oh, I'm angry about this and I'm angry about that," and it's like, man, get your act together. You're in a dispensary. It's a privilege, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is a gift,
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people, there are still people today, and I want to touch on this. There are people today still doing life in federal prison, Zennie, over a plant. They couldn't come after me over cannabis because I'm really not a pot smoker. I medicate a little with CBDs and stuff. I haven't been able to do that for years. Today's going to be the first day I get back to my CBD treatments.
Wow.
Because I haven't been able to do that on parole.
Wow.
Dan,
what's amazing on that note, just for a second.
Huh.
I'm in Fayette County, Georgia. Over next to the Kroger is a CBD dispensary here in the Bible Belt. I just wanted to put that out there.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. That's, and truth be told, I'm not a smoker or anything like that, but I've never opposed this because it helps people with cancer. And it's a market that should be opened up and allowed to flourish with the right protections. So the way we've handled it has been, well, I don't want to go off on a rant because it takes away from you, I wanted to put that out there because it's just like, wow.
It doesn't have to, and it's never been about me. It has been about our crew, and it has been about the people that we set out to help. It's just that I'm the guy that took it in the shorts over it. So that was about me.
Let me ask.
But the thing that to touch on what you just said, Zennie.
Sure.
One of the reasons I dedicated my life to this plant and to creating this industry, I've seen people with Parkinson's be able to sit down and talk with folks calmly and with a really diminished symptom of their disease. In other words, and I'm sorry to do this, but in other words, to go from this, with 2 hits of this, and to be able to sit down and talk to their loved ones, hug their families, hug their kids, be hugged. You know what? It's been worth it, and I'll do it again. And as a matter of fact, I'll keep doing it. To see, you remember the girl we all called Little Michaela?
Yeah.
Okay, well, and I'm going to leave her family's name out because they always preferred to. And a lot of other people aren't going to like to hear this because they all want to take credit for whatever. And anybody that had anything to do with making it happen, I'm all for them. Right on. Thank you. When we first found her, and when we first found a little boy named Jaden David, whose father actually got prosecuted and locked up for allowing his son to be treated. And I can't remember what he had, Dravet's or Tourette's.
Tourette's. I think it was Tourette's.
Yeah. Do you remember the whole thing we did in Berkeley?
Right.
Barbara Lee.
I remember a chapter and verse, but I remember it. Yeah.
And today I have a nephew who's making medicines, and he is curing cancer. And I mean, this is another kid, East Oakland kid, grew up in the hood, just like the rest of Diamond Boy. It's what we call ourselves, was Diamond Boys. To see all that and to know it's there was a lot of what also propelled me and helped me to get the attention of other people to come in and help us, political people. At first we would go to Sacramento or to the Capitol in DC, try to talk to legislators, and behind closed doors they'd go, "Don't drag me into this." And later on, weeks later, they're in the newspaper saying, "Okay, well, we're not opposing it." And one even said, "Well, why are you coming out like this?" And he said, "Because Dan Rush forced me to." And
You,
and
and
it
the man,
wasn't.
you didn't have a gun to his head, did you?
No, no, no. It was like I took him by the hand and I forced him to look at Michaela, to to look at Jaden, to look at Parkinson's patients, to look at the reality. And that was what it took. There was a time when lobbyists could not go to the industry could not go to Sacramento and hire lobbyists with cash money. And I'm talking cash money. Lobbyists would tell them, I can't take your money, right? I can't. Later on, I'd circle back and get them to put that money into campaigns for initiatives and signature gathering drives and other stuff, building coalitions. You couldn't hire people to work on cannabis when we started.
Wow.
And it was for those reasons. Yes, create those jobs. Yes, help these people that are suffering. And now today, let's expand that market. There's a couple of million people a day that go into dispensaries. There's 200 million people a day that go into grocery stores
That's
in North.
Hey,
And that's what. Go ahead.
Oh no, I didn't want to interrupt what you were saying. Go ahead. That you were.
Day before yesterday, we saw that Health and Human Services got a letter from the Biden administration saying, please, prepare, consider, explore going to the DEA and asking for rescheduling from Schedule 1, hard narcotic, to Schedule 3.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Frankly, 3 isn't good enough. It needs to go to Schedule 6, 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about those schedules real quick before just for those who are not familiar with how that works,
Well, Schedule 1 is like absolute, you can't touch it. It's nothing but a narcotic, a deadly narcotic, addictive narcotic. There's no medical use for it. There's no opportunity to study it. You can't possess it to study it. You can't hold it. You can't look at it. You can't be around it. Individually or as an entity or an agency or an organization, even medical science cannot study this, right? That's Schedule 1 in the Controlled Substances Act. So there are 4 things in there: cannabis, cocaine. No, I'm sorry. Cocaine is Schedule 2. Cannabis, methamphetamine, heroin, and there's 4 or 5 things in there. Cannabis is in one of those. So in other words, it's classified as a deadly drug that is only destructive and has to be treated like a bag of COVID. You just have to run away from it. So now HHS, Health and Human Services, federal agency under the Health and Human Services Secretary in the Biden administration. And this is what I'm preparing to do, Zennie. I'm preparing to go to DC, start putting back together that coalition. Because frankly, and this is going to make a lot of people angry, but too many people, lobbyists, staffers, caucus members, resources, have been too comfortable with just setting up weather balloons about regulating cannabis, about creating banking. And it's just fallen into this process of it's easier to send up a weather balloon, tell the industry that you're trying to do something, and then let it go at the last minute. Let it get dealt off in another, for another bill or another piece of legislation, another piece of policy. This never happened because people said it's the right thing to do. It always happened because of political pressure, media pressure, scrutiny, and just, real diligence. And I say that from the perspective of, you can't settle for no. And I don't mean that in any other way than I'm not going to settle for somebody pissing on my shoes and telling me it's raining.
On that note, I want to ask you, we talked about the East Bay Express piece that I alluded to in the words here, title Pot union organizer Dan Rush pleads not guilty to corruption, attempted extortion, and money laundering. And we went, and I'm not sandbagging Dan. I went over this with Dan, so he knows what's coming, and he agreed to, set the record straight here.
I welcome it. I welcome it, Zennie.
Yeah, and it reads, Dan Rush, the longtime face of union efforts to organize America's cannabis industry, pleaded not guilty Wednesday. This was 2015, specifically the date being September 24th, 2015. Pleaded not guilty Wednesday to federal charges of corruption, attempted extortion, and money laundering. Rush, an Oakland resident, faces up to 20 years in prison and fines of up to $500,000. A federal grand jury in Oakland indicted Rush on September 17th of 2015 with charges of taking illegal payments as a union employee, honest services fraud, and other crimes. That indictment came after a bombshell affidavit in the case became unsealed in August. Rush was arrested on August 11th of 2015 and posted bond for $500,000. The affidavit and indictment contained a litany of charges. I'm going to stop right there for now, because you said to me that that you had a lot of pointed, really valuable statements to educate us regarding this, and I'm zooming in on it. This paragraph. Go, Dan. Set the record straight.
Well, first of all, they forgot to say that my mother didn't like me and that I stole candy from children. and I work part-time as a big bad wolf. But I was clear to those charges too. So, Zennie, and the perfect example here is the bombshell affidavit.
Yeah.
So in my case, and I got to tell you, I've been around for a while. I'm not naive. I knew that the federal government and the justice system could be scoundrelous, but I had no idea that A, I would deserve their A game or be subject to their A game, and B, their A game of being scoundrels, or B, that they would just use the tactics they use. Those bombshell affidavits and declarations, they're not declarations of what people saw. They are scripts that were written by federal prosecutors, and they're scoundrelous paid informants and immunized informants. They're scripted affidavits, they're scripted declarations. They take one small piece of truth and they completely mischaracterize it into some scoundrelous accusation, and then they have a circle of people. When they come after you, it's not one guy or one gal. It's a circle of, what I refer to as paid rats and informants. An informant means that I read scripts, not that I tell what I saw. I hope somebody doesn't soundbite that. To say what they saw, or to say what they saw happen. Those are, it's choreographed, scripted, and it's done by an entire theater group of people known as confidential human sources. People that are recruited because they despise you, or they're afraid of you, or they don't want to live up to what they promised to do or what they should do. Some of those affidavits were quote unquote witnesses that claim that I had promised to purposely make something called neutrality agreements, which is a process in organizing. They mischaracterized what I said and portrayed it as I would purposely write a toothless agreement in exchange for money or favors or whatever. And, the truth to that is I used to tell people, you're signing on to a program where we're gathering a group. Don't worry about those agreements, because basically at the end of the day, they're all toothless. And they are only as enforceable as the party is willing to try to enforce it. And the union was not going to put a pile of money into going after some Elmo's dispensary on the corner of nowhere and never going to get anywhere. Sign the thing because it becomes an instrument that we use to show political people that the industry is with us and behind us.
Mm-hmm.
But, some degenerate who is making their own life, saving their own ass from whatever degenerate crap that they've done. And that's usually who these affiants and these declarants are the real scumballs that really don't want to be revealed for what they are. And so they'll go and sign anything the government puts in front of them, and they back it up with each other's testimony and declarations and affidavits.
You're saying that because it reads here, Russia and a co-conspirator formulated a scheme to obtain debt forgiveness in exchange for favorable treatment by the union authorities.
So
go ahead, please. This is your platform.
Okay, that whatever he was,
co-conspirator.
Yeah. My former lawyer, Mark Terbeek, is the one who formulated this scheme to get a debt forgiveness in a construction, in a development situation that had been going on my family's property for a long time. He ends up putting me in a position to default on a mortgage I got to support the building of this assisted living care center.
Oh my Lord!
That was going to go on my family's property. So to cover his own lack of performance in that mortgaging situation, he goes out and finds somebody else. And this is all in public record. Martin Kaufman, who at the time was a really young and really, what I thought to be a pretty decent kid. And I thought that he was sincere. Terbeek, to cover his end of what he's got me and my family in debt for, goes out and recruits Kaufman to put money into this thing. And then somehow or another, it's going to create the money we need to develop my property and some sort of income for Kaufman. So do you know what I know about this? Terbeek calls me and says, hey, I got a solution for the property thing. I said, okay, thanks. Let me know what's going on, because I'm heading to DC, or I'm heading to New York, or I'm heading to Ontario, or I can't remember where I was going. Yeah. I mean, that's how much I knew about it. And then suddenly I got this kid showing up at my house with $500,000 in a FBI script, $500,000 in a grocery bag, saying, here's the money. And I'm like, whoa, hold on here a minute. I call my lawyer. Hey, lawyer, you're my lawyer. I'm the guy you call, or you're the guy I call for legal advice.
Yeah.
What the hell do I do? Take the money and put it away. We'll take care of it. Is that legal? Is that legal? We'll take care of it. I talked to my lawyer.
He's throwing you under the bus, literally.
Oh, buddy.
He's taking the bus, and he's throwing you under it.
Then he won't make so part of the deal is a kid's supposed to get $3,000 a month payments.
Yeah.
So then he won't make the payments. Then he calls me up and says, we're going to screw this kid. And don't worry, I'll take care of it. I'm like, hold on, man. Whoa, we're not screwing anybody. And, we're not screwing anybody. So you got to figure this out. We got to figure this out, whatever. Next thing I know, I got this kid and his partners calling me up saying, your lawyer sent us a note saying that if we don't forgive this debt, that he's going to call the IRS and he's going to have somebody deported and and I'm like, what? And he says that it's all you telling him to do this. All me telling him to do that. So Zennie, I don't know what to say. You know what? The one thing I did do or didn't do is I didn't call the FBI and tell them that my lawyer was putting deposits into the bank of $5,000 each that he did tell me about. And he said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. I'm your lawyer. I got it. So But in court, that got turned into me sitting in a coffee shop ordering him to make these deposits, to do it this way, to tell that kid nobody's paying him back and he better let it go. My lawyer even actually wrote this on a piece of paper on a memo and sent it to this kid.
But bottom line, you weren't getting any kickbacks,
buddy. If anything,
that's what it reads. Like, it says the indictment also charged Rush with taking kickbacks. And what you told me, it's like you were taking a kickback.
Periodically, I'm the one that had to take the money from my pocket and make the payment to the kid because the lawyer didn't or refused to. And the deal was structured so that the lawyer had to make the payment. He was the lawyer for the development. He was the lawyer for our family trust. That's what he was supposed to do. So, wow. my job was to, keep working. And so, I mean, the whole thing. So here's a series of crimes where all the federal witnesses, the government rats got together and said, yeah, Rush made us do it because that's a script that was written for him. And they verify it because this witness verified it and that witness verified it. This witness verified it. It's just, these guys are, man, they're scary,
Yeah. So this is what you wrote. It says, and it rightly says here that Rush is innocent until proven guilty. His not guilty plea Wednesday came with a strident statement online. He wrote on Facebook, yes, I was indicted today. Why? Because I refused to be their rat and spread their rat fabricated cases to other people in our union and labor movement and some other good and decent people, lifelong friends, elected officials, and others in the cannabis industry and political movements. And yes, even the ones I don't like. And they had to stop one of their scumball paid rats and his son and friend, in my case, from stalking me and my family everywhere, including court. And I misspelled Mark Turibiek's last name. It says 4 of Rush's associates, including his attorney, Mark Turibiek, recorded conversations with Rush for federal anti-corruption investigators as part of a multi-year investigation. Turibiek is pleading guilty to related charges and cooperating with the government. So basically, he's threw you under the bus.
To save his own ass. And they're prosecuting me for basically what were his crimes. That he did in my name. Yeah. I'll tell you, Zennie, you know what? I don't want to make this about them. I just want to say, I told my lawyers, because the prosecutor spent a couple of years insisting that I go to work for them. And they're like, oh, we're going to make it all go away. They didn't tell me this. They told my lawyers. And I'm like, oh, you're going to make everything go away that you published about me in press releases, in newspaper articles, and statements from FBI agents, and you're going to make all that go away. And you're going to let me be your boy. You're going to let me be you're going to let me be your bitch for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And all I have to do is work for you guys, set people up, read them scripts that you've written to fabricate them into positions to work with your other scumball buddies. No, I think what I'll do is I'll just, accept responsibility for what I've done. So I told my lawyers, I said, find a couple of things that I've done and find something I can plead guilty to. And that's why all the other charges were dropped. And I'll plead guilty to those. And in exchange, I want them to stop subpoenaing and threatening to indict my staff, my friends, my crew, other people in politics, or just other people that could be ruined just by getting a subpoena or an indictment.
Yeah.
I said, let's package all that up. Okay. You know what? I talk about being a guy with a warrior heart and principles and integrity and virtue, which I'm not always, but I try to be. Ask my wife and my closest friends; they'll tell you sometimes it's a little off. And I'll take it. and I'll go do my time. And 3 years after I get out, I'll tell my story. And in the meantime, I'm going to go home, be a good boy. And, my wonderful wife, Margaret, who walked through all of this with me, who sacrificed, who worked to take care of herself and me while I was gone. My adult children, who I have, if there's anything in life I've been proud of, it's being a good dad.
Yeah.
Not always the best dad, but a good dad. And so suddenly I find myself sitting in prison. I've always been the guy that took care of the family. I was always the guy that was, the protector, the defender, the provider, I love my role. I'm really comfortable in my role, and suddenly I'm, in prison, buying deodorant and toothpaste with money that my children take out of their pocket to put in my books, that Margaret takes out of her pocket to put in my books. And I, that was a really humbling experience for me.
What do you think? I'm sorry, go ahead. I was going to ask you, marijuana was legalized the next year. It was 2016. And what was your reaction that day that happened?
It was very bittersweet, Zennie, because I wasn't allowed to go into dispensaries because I was on supervised release, pretrial release. So I couldn't go to dispensaries, couldn't be around cannabis. I had a whole list of people I couldn't talk to. And I was sitting at home watching people who had testified against me opening the doors of their new dispensaries. And that was kind of bittersweet. But you know what? Just watching people, and I had to do it, watching the news. And you're the only news outlet that I have any respect for.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And it's been that way for a long time, Zennie.
Yes, it has. Yeah. Thank you.
And you've only gotten better with time.
Thank you.
But it was really bittersweet. It was, I love it. I love today. I'm going to be able to walk in dispensaries, go to facilities. I'm going to be able to kiss and touch and hold the plant that I adore. I'm going to be able to plant one in my backyard.
And let's take inventory. 24 states now, it's legal.
Yep.
There are laws on the books to make it legal throughout the nation.
Yep.
And with that, I have to ask you, if someone is involved in the handling of substance dubbed illegal, and they're working with other people, and the feds come down, isn't it that much more likely they're going to lie about you because they don't want to get hit, as opposed to, hey, if everything's legal, there's no problem, right?
Right.
So my point is, I'm curious to think or wonder why the federal government didn't see it that way, and why law enforcement didn't see it that way. Rather than, hey, you know what? Maybe we better just take a 30,000 look at this and see if we're really right about what we're doing.
Well, right does not enter in at all.
I know, but
look, that is the largest law firm in the world, and they work with the principles. They have a very loose relationship with reality or the truth, and a very close relationship with justifying the money that they extort out of Congress for their investigations. Their investigations are usually cartoons that are based on, they can get a bunch of money from Congress or from the Department of Justice to do something, and they go out and do it. They're also, most U.S. attorneys are lawyers that came out of a particular industry. And in the case of my case, they came out of the pharmaceutical industry. And so they come to serve their real agenda, which is their lifelong agenda, to serve the industry that they come from. And they spend a few years in the government enhancing the position of their industries. and serving out the political agendas of the people that whose lives they ruin and destroy, whose families and homes that they ruin and destroy, to serve an agenda that gets them a political appointment or a higher hourly billing when they leave the government and go back to the private industry, or it's doing the right thing. It doesn't come into their head. The people that came after me were the public corruption division of the FBI and the U.S. attorney in the Northern District. And at that time, that was Melinda Haig, and anybody in the cannabis industry. It came with an agenda to stop medical cannabis. And they came after me so hard because they saw me as the person who recruited the mainstream political community. Mainstream, I mean corporate, union, public safety and health, medicine. That's what I do. I build coalitions, and I build coalitions of stakeholders and then coalitions of communities of interest. Community of interest isn't necessarily stakeholders. It's people that are going to be impacted by whatever your politics, whatever your initiative or legislation is.
Hey, Dan, I gotta ask you.
Yeah.
I think part of also the money that was fueling this were from interests who had literally set up a gravy train of their own, making money by getting young black kids arrested and adults, black folks who were involved in the sale of marijuana because they couldn't get money the other way, and they were.
Zennie, even today, the percentage of African Americans, BIPOC, non-white people, and I got to tell you, I'm not a fan of woke. You know that, Zennie.
I know. Yeah.
I'm an old-fashioned guy. I hate everybody equally. I pick on everybody equally. I come from an Irish Catholic family, and we practice ironism, which is, we agonize everybody. But the percentage of people that have been disparately impacted, that have been marginalized historically, is very small in the industry. And so, there was, I look at this 30,000 foot view now, and I see where, the government.
Just not to forget my train. My point is that, when they throw people in prison, they get money for the people that are in prison, right?
Oh, buddy, it's a huge industry.
Right. So if it work with me, all of a sudden, there are all these folks who are being let out of jail because they're thrown in jail on trumped up marijuana charges. Like, oh, this person had like a microscopic gram or whatever, and they were caught at the airport. Next thing you know, they're thrown on the hoosegow for what, 2 decades? That sort of craziness. You basically played a role in destroying that.
A lot of the policy we wrote at first was equity based, but we didn't call it equity then.
Oh, Kim calls you the Irish agonizer. She's laughing, right? The Irish agony. You gotta love it, man.
That's a kind statement. Irish hassle works too. So, yeah, the prison industry is just a corporation. It's just and the people that are suffering in there most are the people that have been, had their lives taken away. They're not people that are just there. There aren't only people doing decades. There are people doing life, Zennie.
Yeah, no, it's awful. It really is.
I got to get this plug in.
Yeah,
Freedom Grow Network, a nonprofit who helps cannabis prisoners, whose our president, my leader, I love her, Stephanie Landa, today still raises money, serves, helps the families and also us inmates stay in touch with our families. The POWs, and that's what you're talking about, Zennie, the POWs, the prisoners of the drug war. And yeah, most African American, most BIPOC impacted, and the whole system. And that's where there was systemic racism. And I say was. The whole cocaine thing, the whole crack thing, the whole making marijuana illegal thing, so they could get rid of hemp. I mean, and there are people in there that are still doing life today, and we can't forget about those people. We can't let them go.
It should be a pardoning program, because the way that I look at this is you have, and I want to get your thought on this. We had the rise on the war on drugs just after foreign direct investment, and then basically the throwing out of manufacturing to overseas. If you take a look at the line on one, they actually cross like this, right? So you've got the war on drugs here. Here you have the war on drugs here. You have the decline in manufacturing over here, and going left to right. And manufacturing employed a lot of people who look like me in low skill, well-paying jobs. Then we closed the bases. Remember that?
Right.
So we had the systemic cutting down of low skill, well-paying jobs. And now you have folks who are saying, hey, where am I going to get my money? And then the kids come in who sometimes are the children of kids who had kids, or having them as kids when they're like 18. And so they don't know how to make money. And so they feel, not that they have to, but if you're not programming or anything else, they feel like they have to turn to selling drugs.
And they're coming into life.
Right. And then get this. I'm going to throw in the till and then I'll shut up. I was writing for the Montclarian, my first job as a news person, 93 to 96, 96. In 96, I interviewed a guy named Gary Webb. Gary Webb had alleged that the CIAs are running drug money.
Pop in here.
Yeah. Through San Jose and other, areas in California. And I got a hold of Gary, and we talked, and I wrote a column about him. He told me that there was a guy named Arnolfo Cornejo who was in North County Jail. And he said, get the sheriff to let you talk to him, because he will tell you that the CIA was also running drugs through Oakland to finance the Contras. So the Montclarian would not run the piece. They stopped my column. I was working for LU at the time. I was economic advisor. Then moons later, I see Tom Cruise in this movie about the subject. And one of the people he's interacting with is none other than Arnolfo Cornejo. I fell out of my chair. I said, holy crap. Gary was right. And I thought Gary committed suicide. I was told that by a friend recently that he did not commit suicide. So my point is, there's a lot of unseemly behavior on the part of our government that went on around the war on drugs that really has to end. And I think you played a role in ending it. And I think they were afraid of that. You're screwing up their gravy train. You're screwing up their mirror to say, hey, all those black folks are bad and everything else. It's powerful stuff.
And I got to tell you, Zennie, I feel blessed to have been able to play the role that I played. And now my life is going to be about making it up to my family, getting back to work in the industry. And Zennie, we would have to do a whole nother series of shows if you want to hear my reality theories. Some people call them conspiracy theories, based on just some of the stuff you said. And by the way, there's a guy named Roger Reeves that I was locked up with. And the movie American Made that Tom Cruise was in, was made about Roger and his partner Barry.
Oh, Barry was okay. Wow, thank you for putting that all together. Please, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Roger's book is called Smugglers. Roger, forgive me, Smugglers. And I'll put you together with Roger. Yeah. Anyway, Barry actually worked for him, but in the movie, Barry was portrayed as the guy. And the reason Barry was portrayed as the guy was because he helped the government dump on the guy, which was Roger. And Roger was smuggling a lot of weed back in the day. And, somewhat of an activist of himself. He did 33 years for a period of time. We weren't bunk mates, but we were in the same section of the prison. We hung out together every day. We talked. We worked out. We walked. Let's see. What's that say? Oh,
Dan Rush needs to produce a Netflix show. Politics, drugs, prison, government outreach. His life has it all. He's right. You got something. He's right.
Thank you, John. I think that was John, my brother-in-law.
Nice.
It was one of my favorite people on the planet. Yeah, I mean, so I do a lot of that now, Zennie, because I've been in the underbelly, and I've been, I've sat in the White House. I've sat in in the halls of Congress. I've sat in the Speaker's office. And I'm a kid from East Oakland, so I'm not some educated guy, and I'm proof that, in what we were brought up in, the idea that this is a place to live our dreams. We can. So there's an underbelly to it too, and that's what we have to first explore, identify, understand, and then set out to fix it. And the prisons are full of Black people, BIPOC people, marginalized people that many of them don't belong there, and especially federal prisons. Federal prisons are business, and it's about locking people up. It's about making money on you. You have to have a job in federal prison. And I worked for a while for $5.16 a month, and you can't even buy deodorant in there for under $10. So,
how was your experience in there? What was,
the hardest thing for me, Zennie, is I'm in my 60s now. I'm diabetic, and I'm really susceptible to infections. So I actually ended up in the hospital a couple of times there, scheduled for amputations of my right leg because I kept catching infections from the showers. The federal older prisons are filthy. They're disgusting.
We have this one here, Fulton County. They need court said, hey, you got to rebuild this thing because it cost them $2 billion. The fellow died in there. Get this, from insects crawling on his body.
Right? Oh yeah.
Ridiculous stuff. This is stuff
scabies.
They ought to be locked up for.
They're filthy, and they are life threatening from the point of view of bad health.
That's why I say this to everybody watching, particularly young Black kids. I don't care what anybody tells you. Be nice to the police. Be respectful. Be old school about it. I don't care what you think about it. You think I'm being, Mr. White Guy or something? I'll say, yes. So what? Just do it. Just save yourself the trouble. Right, Dan?
Hey, right, Zennie. Save yourself the trouble. Spend some time, taking any good opportunity you can get to do something for yourself. So many of our kids, we got generations of kids that are emotionally and spiritually disabled.
Yes, sir.
Because of their environment and because their parents, for whatever reasons, addictions or just lack of opportunity. And, we really got to do things for everybody, and especially young people, giving them a start. One of the things I was really into was, so many kids, so many Black kids, white kids, all kids that had been arrested for marijuana one day after they turned 18. So now they're going to walk around in life with this police record. Yeah. And there over 4,000 people were released from prison one day. And I think it was in 2015.
That's right. Yeah.
Because of what we call McPherson now. And by the way, don't blame me for that. My work in it was only half done when I got indicted. The rest of it was done by some people that had absolutely no idea what they were doing. But we specifically put that in there for people that had marijuana convictions and drug convictions. And, we needed to do that. And now we need to free the people that are in federal prison. They're doing life, Zennie. I mean, doing life for nothing other than a marijuana conviction. Roger Reeves was in there for smuggling drugs, and Roger did some crazy stuff. I mean, Roger broke out of prison in Australia. He broke out of prison in South America, but he was a guy that was actually working for. I don't want to get into agency names because that's his story to tell, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a guy who was working for people that were involved in the process of arming countries and communities to fight in their countries. And you know what I've discovered that was all about?
Yes, sir.
Buying arms. It's not about freedom. And I'll tell you, just like this Ukraine thing, it's about buying the arms from the industry that makes money on it. Why do you get into a war you can't win? Right? Who's going to win? The people selling the arms. It was the same thing with the Contras and the Reagan people and Ollie North. And I know, people have different opinions about it, but the reality is when we get into wars that only serve one winner, that winner is the people selling the arms. And, in the drug war, we got into a war that was only serving one group of people and demonizing the rest. And, that's a lot of what I want to work on now. I also want to finish building this industry, making it federally legal, and in our case, helping the people that are suffering the most now, which were the legacy people that started everything, and especially the farmers up here in the Emerald Triangle. Margaret and I live up here in Mendocino now, and my partner Dan lives across the street. We moved here specifically to bring some life back to the industry because everybody else is going to make money, and the people that gave their all, the multi-generational family farms, they're artisans. They're not drug dealers, they're artisans, and they're going to struggle in a corporate environment. But Dan and I and Linda and our partners, we're building holding companies specifically designed to bring that legacy back so that it can compete in a corporate world as a corporate entity, but still preserve our legacy way of life and our family farms and the generations of family that grew up that do nothing but cannabis, that live for happy spotted owls, that live for healthy watersheds, that are good families that take care of each other and their community. And that's something else I'd like to talk about at some point.
Sure.
Is the work we're doing now.
I want to ask you in the time we have, just because I can keep it forever and I want to do that. But have you had a chance to look at how Oakland is handling cannabis business? Because they had a guy in the city administration office. He's still there. But I'll just stop it right there, because what are your thoughts?
I think that Nancy Marcus and Greg and the people in the city administrator's office have really done an outstanding job of bringing things to the surface and also dealing with the struggle of state agencies. Mm-hmm. And, the fact that not only do we need city permits, but we also need state licenses. And I'll give you one example. Now that I can work in the industry again, we've got a company there, a family company that Margaret and I are part of. Our partners, we're all partners. And we're going to have to wait 2 years to get a sprinkler certification to do the cultivation.
Jeez Louise, 2 years.
And that's not the city. I mean, those are other agencies that have to come in to allow the city to come in and do it. And so,
did anybody talk to Gavin about this?
Well, I haven't talked to Gavin for 7 years, and I think everybody knows that Gavin and I were pretty good friends.
Yeah.
Um, so sure, yeah, I intend to talk to him about this and other stuff. And Zennie, I'm beginning to revive my political work. You know, I want to go to DC. Thank you. And we're asking people to get involved and build coalition with us, and so we can go make a difference because we can have a safer act that provides federal banking, and we can have FinCEN allowing banking to happen in North America, and we can have regulation. And cannabis should be treated as a crop and not as some demonized thing that has to have its own uh, you know weird regulations that are just imposing. And so I'm looking forward to doing that too.
Oh, by the way, Shirley Rogers writes, "Okay, I'm here. You're doing good."
Hi, Shirley. Shirley is we call Shirley Aunt Shirley. You know, I've been calling her Aunt Shirley for a long time, and her brother, who is a very famous guy, is somebody that I loved and adored my entire life, and I hope to celebrate him soon too. And I love and adore Shirley.
And Kim says, "Go Dan." Gives you 3 hearts.
Aw,
That's great.
I give her 3 hearts too. So yeah, I want to pick up my work again, our work, and make it right this time. One thing that people I couldn't understand, explain to people in the industry back in the day, because literally these were folks that had 2 million buried in the backyard, 80,000 in their pocket, and 400,000 in the trunk of the car. I used to tell them we're building an industry, and we got to develop it. We got to build it in a way so that it works, it thrives in the mainstream Western economic process, and that is basically large institutional funding, investing in diverse ecosystems of an industry. And PepsiCo's perfect model. Not only do they own Pepsi and make soda, they own the aluminum mines they get for the cans. They own the sugarcane fields that for their sodas. They own their distributors, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, A&W Root Beer. They're stockholders in the gas stations that sell their stuff. They own the property that their franchises are built on. That's a diverse ecosystem. They own the trucking company that delivers everything. And they're separate companies because there's a lot of tax advantages in that. And it also allows institutional investment to invest in an industry because it costs $1 million to loan $1 million, so to speak. So, institutional investment, they prefer to make one $100 million loan instead of $1 million loan into one company. Why not invest $100 million or $1 billion into a company that holds that diverse ecosystem of the industry? And but I couldn't explain it to guys back in the day, gals back in the day that had money falling out of the trees.
Literally, yeah.
Now we're at the point where we have to participate in the Western mainstream economic process.
Mm-hmm.
And that's done by coming together. And so we live up here in the Emerald Triangle, the legacy people that we should all yearly come up and say a prayer and thank for the sacrifice that they've made, along with the people that are in prison doing life to get us to where we are. And our holding company is about the Emerald Triangle. It's about the Napa Valley of cannabis. It's about where it started, the artisanship, the family farms. And because family farms are not going to be able to compete in this new corporatizing industry that's going to result from the rest of legalization. And so what we've done is built a holding company so that our legacy families and friends and farms can be a corporate player, but live in a healthy, family-driven world and keep their farms. And we're going to compete in the corporate market. And I got to tell you, we're going to be tough. We're going to be good because folks shopping on those dispensary and grocery store shelves are going to be buying cannabis that does have happy owls and happy watersheds, and granddaughters, artisans work that they learned from grandma and grandpa, and so we're really excited about that too. Maybe we can do another show on that.
Well, we have to. And then there's people that I know. I don't know if she wants her name out there. I'll just say a friend of mine, Phil Tagami, had an aide for a long, long time and went in the cannabis industry, and now she's started her own very successful company.
I think you're talking. Well, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and I know if she wanted her name out there or not, but well, she's got a podcast, so she's watching. Come on the show.
Hey,
What do you think
I'm
about
always
people like her who are really killing it, or trying to really taking advantage of the legal world of cannabis?
right.
Yeah.
So I want to, I want to take advantage of it too. I want my family and the people that got us here and the people that are still here with us. I want us to thrive and flourish. And I'm not a union guy anymore, so I can be a corporate profiteer. And it's completely legal. And I got to tell you, it's my turn.
Have you met the current mayor yet since you've been out or around? Or
I have not. I don't live in Oakland anymore, Zennie.
that's right, you're in Mendocino. Right. You left up in 2021. You left just before the change and everything. What prompted the move, by the way?
The opportunity to come live in the Emerald Triangle here and be at home with our farmers and friends and families. And I can't stand the traffic anymore. The homelessness is heartbreaking to me. And just the whole, you're an Oakland boy. I mean, Oakland, Reno's going to have to forgive me for saying this, but we were the biggest little town in the world.
Yeah.
And multi-generational Oaklanders, we all knew each other, and we loved and preserved and enhanced our town. And now Oakland is just this place that it's soulless. I'm sorry. I can't live there anymore.
Expand on that.
It's just not anything I know, Zennie. It's just the homelessness is horrible. The filth, it's just heartbreaking to me. This is the first years since the 1860s that Oakland has not had a rush living in it.
Wow.
So my kids have grown up now. My daughter's a JD now, and she's married my daughter Kelly. She gets embarrassed when I talk about her, and I don't like people not liking her because they know that I'm her dad. Which used to happen to her at the city because there was always people that like you and don't like you at the city of Oakland. So she left the city of Oakland and now she's working at the city of Concord. And my son, he's got a thriving business. We'll always be Oaklanders at heart, but until Oakland gets its shit together.
We lost 4 professional sports teams.
Right?
Yeah, 4. Warriors, the Raiders, the Athletics on the way out. The Oakland Panthers became the Bay Area Panthers 2 years ago.
And what caused? I mean, profiteering caused a lot of that. Las Vegas's determination to have Oakland's teams caused it, but our lack of willingness to keep our teams is something that is gone. And I got to tell you, I don't know the new mayor. I wish her well. I am hoping to have a healthy, productive relationship with her. I want to support that myself and other multi-generational Oakland families want to support. And I'm looking forward to getting together with her. You know, Dan Calv is still there, and I love Dan.
He's running for Senate.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
On the Senate, I should have meant that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I ought to stay put myself, but that's just me.
So I'm looking forward to meeting her. I haven't met her yet.
And I think Dan would be a great senator. I just think he should stay put. I'm just saying. So, but
right?
Yeah, stay put, Dan. Actually,
we love you.
He's termed out. I forgot about that. So he's
right.
Oh.
So you know, and so I just love where I live now so much that nothing else matters.
Wow.
To me right now, I'm 63 years old. Zennie, I put in my fight. I did my term. I did my time.
Mm-hmm.
I've been arrested on picket lines for civil rights, social justice, justice at work, equity at work, justice on the job, families, you know, families in all forms, LGBTQ, you know, traditional families. You know, I've done my part.
Yep.
Now I live in a wonderful place.
Nice.
And I don't know if you can see my garden out there.
Lower it a little bit. Just yeah, I can see it now. Wow. Beautiful place, man.
That's my garden and my giant redwood trees and and I have my vaulted ceilings. I've always wanted vaulted ceilings. Margaret and I call it our redwood tree house. I think Margaret's watching too. I love you, Margaret. My goo. Everybody makes fun because I call her my goo. And Zennie, I love you. I don't know if I have any much more in me.
Hey, you know, this has been a great epic moment in the history of my channel. So I want to thank you for being a part of that. Couldn't have done it without you.
Zennie, you've been a great epic portion of my life.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you.
Literally since
thank you.
And especially my political.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
Which is coming back now.
Yeah.
You covered every one of my elections, every one of our pushes, you know, CDP, DNC, you know, union. You're always there on my union elections. And, you know, I love you, buddy.
Love you too, man. Definitely. Hey, so I got to make my mom happy because I can smell I can smell she's cooking downstairs for dinner.
Right?
And you're helping her out, so you know.
Being good Oakland boys, we're good mama boys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I haven't seen my place back in Adams Point. I don't know when, and I'm just Hey, everybody's watching that's back from my place. Slap them in, everybody. Take care of my place, will you? Oh my Lord. Yeah, I gotta take care of all those folks. Anyway, hey Dan, I want to thank you so much. Stick around in the background. Here, this person, Dan Rush, is an all-time hero of mine. He helped me kickstart my career in labor organizing, has always treated me with kindness and love, and that comes from Appalachian Podcast. Dan, there you go, man.
Thank you, Appalachian, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again.
Wow, awesome. Yeah. All right, hey Dan, everybody, subscribe to Zennie 62. Bookmark our new news site, ZennieReport.com, Zennie62.com, and Oakland News now blog.com, and and OaklandNewsOnline.com. We've got a lot of websites. And by the way, an Appalachian says this is Roberto. And
hey, Roberto, what are you doing, buddy?
This is a nice. So Dan, stick around in the background, folks. Hey, everybody, we'll be back later to talk more about The Oakland Athletics headed to Las Vegas. What do you think about that, Dan? Wow. Okay.
Well, Vegas is my other home now.
I love Las Vegas. Yeah. I love
And,
Las Vegas.
And we've got great friends there. Jerome Baker, which is a artistic bond company, been around forever, Grateful Dead oriented. Jason and Jordan are like family, and Jen Solis, all like family. And I'm going to be making, when I'm not in Mendocino, I'll be in Vegas or DC or Sacramento. And I love Vegas, but I'm pissed off that they stole our team. I got to tell you.
Well, you know what? I'll let you know a little secret. If the mayor had hired me, and people don't like I'm saying this, but I'll say, if the mayor had hired me as project manager for Howard Terminal, the A's would still be here, because we would have gotten the tax increment financing district off the ground in a timely fashion in 2020. We wouldn't have wasted time. We had gotten our stuff done with the county in the fashion it should have been done in, instead of Libby coming on my show later, like 2020 July or 2020 July 20th, 2021, and saying, well, we just don't have the staff for redevelopment. She's talking to a guy who was hired to do redevelopment, as an intern at 86. Okay. So people don't like what I say. I don't care, because it's true.
Right.
It's true. I'd have gotten the job done. But the current people that did it, the project manager they had, Dan, I'll send you the video, starts off by saying the first presentation to the county. Okay. Hey, I'm in Hawaii with my kids, and basically, hey, sucks to be you because you're not here. Who starts off a presentation on the city's largest economic development project like that?
Right.
That's Oakland.
Exactly my point. There is so much economic development that could have happened.
Yeah.
That it's just, and so the stuff that didn't happen, plus combined with the stuff that has happened, is just heartbreaking to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
it's
And I got to tell you, I'm ready to lend any hand or effort on any project to make Oakland better, and to support anybody politically or community or corporate that grassroots driven to help our city. And it'll always be my city. But I'm living here on the Mendocino district of Oakland.
Nice.
Talk about North Oakland, right?
There you go. Yeah, that's north. That's like hyper north. All right. We're on that note. Dan, we're gonna have you back. Stick around, don't move, folks. Everybody, again, subscribe to Zennie62 on YouTube if you haven't before, and please bookmark Zennie62.com too. That ends this broadcast. Thank you.